Alright guys, so right off the bat, just want to warn you that I didn't have as much time to prepare for today's video, so probably not as much editing as usual will be featured in today's video. This is going to be more of a discussion-y kind of thing. I had the information pulled up here. This is a topic I've wanted to talk about for a long time. Breaking down immortality and aging in Tower of God, figuring out what it's all about and which characters have these contracts and what it all means. But just be warned that it might not be as professionally edited as usual. I didn't have as much time to prepare. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoy and definitely let me know your thoughts on this topic in the comments. So overall, there are 3 different ways you can describe aging and immortality in Tower of God, because it exists for a lot of people, but it can be divided into categories. So the first category is a sort of natural immortality, which is basically as you climb the tower and you get better at using Shinsu and mastering it, you can slow down your aging, which is very handy. Most rankers are able to do this. In fact, probably all of them, right? To climb the tower, you have to have this fundamental, not just a fundamental understanding of Shinsu, but like a very complicated and complex understanding of utilizing Shinsu. And so rankers have the ability, or at least as far as we've seen, to slow down their aging process. And this is sort of why, some rankers look like kids. Mule Love kind of looks pretty young. Miss Ice Strawberry from Season 1 looks like a literal child, but she's a ranker, because these rankers have learned how to slow down their aging process. Now, keeping this in mind too, Tower of God, like time and years within this universe, it's not the same as the outside world or the real world. We don't know about the outside of the tower, but as far as our world goes, a year in our world is not really a year in the Tower of God world, right? A year in Tower of God might be like a few months, but it's a year to them. I think they have 13 months, in fact. So it's a bit different though. So just keep that in mind as well. So this is more of a natural immortality. So as far as we've seen, most rankers are virtually immortal. Their aging process is slowed, although not everybody. We do see some rankers who look very old. So some rankers, maybe they can stop it permanently, but others, they're going to die eventually, but it's definitely way slowed down. But instead of living like 100 years, they live probably thousands of years. I mean, if you look at Jin Sung, this guy clearly has mastered this. He's lived for thousands of years. He looks great, you can tell he's like experienced and mature, but he does not look 5,000, I would say that. So that's the first category, and I want to add on to that by saying that even regular people in the tower can live, 200, 300 years. So again, the time is different, but even considering that, the way that time works, you can slow it down by using Shinsu. So the second category is spell immortality, spell-based immortality, and it's basically what we saw on the floor of death. You can use spells to be immortal. Now this is different because this is not just an aging immortality, but this is also just immortality. You can't get damaged, you can't die by violence, nothing can harm you. Now, there are weaknesses, however, as we saw on the floor of death. Even though everybody there was immortal, Bomb could still kill them. So if you use a more powerful spell to cancel out that spell of immortality, then it can be broken. It doesn't not have its cracks, right? You can break through it, especially for someone like Bomb, who not only is an irregular, but was using the Shinsu Black Hole Sphere, which is an irregular-only ability. So yes, you can use spells to stop aging and stop, being killed by violence. However, that can be broken. By the way, Guardians can also overwrite this spell of immortality. I see it almost as like a glass shield. Like, it works against some things, but ultimately, if you have something that's powerful enough, it's gonna break. And then the third category is the main one that I want to discuss in this video, and that is contract immortality, or immortality that is attained through contracts with Guardians. This is different from the spell-based immortality where the Guardians don't really have much to do with it. This is you literally going to a Guardian and being like, hey, I want to be immortal. And the 13 warriors, or most of the 13 warriors, made this immortality contract. Once they reached the 100th floor of the tower, they made that deal with the Guardian. Everybody except for V. As far as we know, V was the only one who did not make that contract. Now, that said, Hendo Lock Bloodmatter, which is one of the 10 family heads, the head of the Hendo Lock family, was a special case. For some reason, we don't know why, the Guardian was like, nope, and he didn't do it for Hendo Lock Blood Matter, but he was so desperate, Blood Matter, he was so afraid of death, he wanted to be immortal, that the Guardian finally came to a deal. And essentially, Hendo Lock's children do not live very long lives, and in exchange, Hendo Lock Blood Matter's life is extended. So he is immortal, however, he has to have a lot of kids, and they don't live as long. Even as far as regular people goes. They could live maybe like 100 years, maybe more if they're a ranker, but that's not the same as most other people in the tower, which it sucks for all of them, but he's immortal, and that's why he has the most children out of any of the 10 family heads. Regardless though, this contract is different, because this one is by far the most permanent. You know, it's not like another Guardian can come in and just like, boop, you're done. It's much, much more permanent. Now, I don't know, maybe the original Guardian could reverse it somehow, but for the most part, this thing ain't going away, right? I mean, Arlen tried to commit suicide many times and it didn't work because she made that contract. If he didn't make the contract, you know, he was able to kill himself supposedly, if we believe the story. So this one is definitely more permanent, and as far as we know, it's pretty much only the 10 family heads and Jihad who have this contract. And this isn't just aging, of course, this is also for fighting. You cannot be killed. You know, you could do whatever you want, you cannot be killed. That said, we can assume that similarly to the spell-based immortality, maybe and probably irregulars can bypass this. We know that Bomb has bypassed spells and contracts before, so this is most likely why Thug is using Bomb, so that he can take down Jihad and the 10 family heads if he needs to. So this can be broken, but not as easily as the spell-based contract. You know, it's not like Bomb can walk up to a 10 family head and use the Shinsu Black Hole Sphere and then, oh, I'm no longer immortal. It's not as fragile as the spell-based one. However, it could potentially still be bypassed somehow. We don't really know yet. Jihad made a contract. This was a contract only for him. We don't know much about it, but apparently Jihad made like a king contract with a Guardian or a bunch of Guardians or whatever. And essentially this contract means he cannot be harmed by the inhabitants of the tower. Now, you would think that that's sort of the same thing as the Immortality one that I mentioned previously that the 10 family heads made. You know, what's the difference? And I'm really not sure, but I assume that even, like, the King contract is probably even more permanent than that one. I don't know everything, I'm doing what I can to research and see, but as far as I understand, this is probably like the do-all, end-all. Maybe the 10 family heads are so powerful that they can find a way to bypass the spell themselves, but maybe this King contract is like, no, nothing can happen to me. That said though, irregulars are not inhabitants of the towers, so I don't know. Another interesting thing I've seen people talk about is perhaps the immortality contracts that the 10 family heads made. They're, you know, immortal, but they could still be damaged. It's not like they can't be hurt, right? Maybe they just regenerate, or they just don't die. But as far as Jihad goes, he can't even be harmed, right? So that's probably a good distinction, and that definitely makes sense. So yeah, overall, that is pretty much what we know about this whole immortality thing. Now it is interesting because Fug has recruited people to take down these 10 family heads and Jihad. For example, Karaka targeting Jihad, and White targeting REA Han. And yet, if they have immortality contracts, how are they gonna kill them, you know? Maybe there's something in their blood, like White being from the REA family. I don't think that's the case though. I've heard some theories about that. I think that's interesting, but I don't think that's the case. I have a feeling that it's really just because Karaka, White, Bomb, Yama, they all have ways to bypass the rules. They're, you know, not all of them are irregulars, of course, but they all have something special going on, whether it's a spell or whatever, and maybe that Fug thinks that they could find a way to help defeat these people, even if they can't do it alone. I don't know, but I find it really interesting. It's like, why is Fug so confident? Maybe they don't think Karaka can take down Jihad, but maybe Karaka has something that could at least help take him down. You know what I mean? So interesting stuff there. Overall, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Maybe there's more information out there, but because of the short notice, I couldn't really find it all. Overall, did I miss anything? Definitely put your thoughts down below. I want to hear what you guys think. And if you like this video and want to see more Tower of God content, definitely subscribe and like the video for more. Also, a huge shout out to Crunchy LN Milk on Reddit, who made a post talking about this immortality stuff. It helped me so much because I was able to find some things, but this person summarized it very well. and I think their information was pretty spot on, so huge shout out to them. Also, to all of my patrons, you guys are amazing. You're the reason I can even make content on YouTube. I want to keep making the Patreon more and more updated and give you guys more rewards, so definitely stay tuned for that. All right, guys, with that, I'll see you in my next Tower of God discussion video. Take care.